So I'm Farmata So. I'm an entrepreneur, a world traveler, and a mom. And I created this channel just to share my experience and also like bring a new eye on what is traveling and also Morocco because it's a country that I love, and for me it's the quality of life of this country is really amazing. I've been living in Morocco for 4 years now, and it's a great experience. It has been a great experience, so I want to share that with you.
I'm Jay, entrepreneur, artist, lover of life, traveler. I think that's the best way I can put it. Creator.
Yeah, creator of music, and it has been the soundtrack since I'm here because I've been to all your venues, and it's so amazing what you do. I
Thank you.
really encourage you to check on Jay's music. It's really amazing. It's a heart opening music, I would say. Yeah, so I wanted to have this conversation around not the economy, but the employment situation in the West generally. So to put a frame on it,
Yeah.
I live in Morocco. I have been living in Morocco for 4 years, but I was previously in France. So I experienced the job market and also the entrepreneurship. And you, Jay, you are from the US, but you left the US long ago.
Yeah.
And so we have an eye, I would say, on the different job markets and what is going on.
Yeah.
And we are seeing the situation of the job market being really, really tight. If you
Yes.
being
Yes,
tight.
definitely. Definitely. There are a lot of especially younger people
Mhm.
who are complaining about the unemployment situation and are getting very, very restless because there isn't enough programming for them to get involved with as
Mhm.
well. So it's becoming quite a serious issue.
What could be the next move for someone who is experiencing the job collapse, whether in the US or in the EU? For me, it's something that will help you put what is important at the center of your life.
Mm,
Because the job marketing has been overwhelming these last past years.
hmm
And also the management techniques has been very, very difficult to deal with. I'm talking from an experience because I also, as an entrepreneur, still work with French companies and French companies, yes, French businesses, and I'm talking with the employees and the way that they are involved in their job and in their work. It's not normal because it takes all the space in their life. For some people, they don't have even like just a normal life, like a balanced life between work and family and building your life because they are so stressed by their job. They want to keep it so badly that nothing is important outside of this. And when they are experiencing like a layoff or something like that, it's like the world is collapsing around them. And it's not the case. Like it's an eye opener for me because it shows you what is important in life. And the job is just a way for you to sustain your life, but it's not what makes your life, I would say.
Right,
So
right.
what do you think about this?
I totally agree. I think, especially in industrialized countries, so the UK, EU, US, Australia, Japan as well. Um, we have somehow, I don't know, we've somehow synced our career life or the illusion of our career life with our real life. And we believe that now our job is our identity rather than a job being a part of our identity. And it has been extremely detrimental, I think, to all of us. Why? Because many people who had, hobbies, who had aspirations, who had certain talents that they, used to practice when they were younger, they've kind of just let it all go. They've forgotten about it.
Hmm.
It's kicked the dust.
Mhm.
And I think that's really sad. Not only sad, but I think that it's an important and really essential part of human life, of our humanity, actually, to
Hmm.
maintain those things. Now,
Yeah.
I think it's very clear that the wheels of capitalism and our system of usury inflation and
Hmm.
banking
Yeah.
have accelerated us not having time, energy, or even desire anymore to maintain our hobbies, our aspirations, and these talents. But I think now is a great opportunity to get back into that stuff. But I also think it's a great opportunity to do three really specific things, and that is find your peace, find your camp, and find your knack, otherwise known as an expertise, something that you're really, really good at.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start with find your peace. And these are things that also have helped me as well. How do I find my peace? Well, I sit down and I ask myself, who pours into me? Who do I pour into? Who actually listens when I speak? Who do I listen to when they speak?
Mm-hmm.
Who gets offended when I speak? Do I offend anyone when I speak? Who encourages me when I speak? Do I encourage others when they speak? And I think that's where we will find our peace, at least the first layer of it, because peace is not a destination. I believe peace, just like success, is about a process and it's about constant progression. I think again, we've gotten so lost in our lives being synonymous with our careers that if there is not that next milestone that we're hitting, we believe that we are absolutely worth nothing, that we are
Yeah,
valueless. And that is a really, really horrible transactional way of looking at life and looking at work and looking at just anything, I think. We become too fast food oriented in terms of that, almost everything we do and too transactional.
mm,
So second point I would use or say would be your peace. Um, so even if it means that you need to self-isolate, and that can mean from friends, that can mean from family, and sometimes that can even mean from yourself. You need to sometimes put it put out the noise in your own life, so that you can kind of reground and restabilize yourself. So if that might mean taking a trip solo, not with a group, a solo trip, which is how I ended up here in Morocco anyway, and how I found myself, kind of asking myself many, many questions alone along my journey. It's really, really what got me to this point where I really chose to be happy and I continuously choose to be happy. Why? Because I'm having conversations with myself. But when there's too much stuff going on in the room, you don't have any space to think. And I think that's another big problem, which can be an opportunity or a blessing right now. Now that we have more time, especially if you're on that unemployment line, it is the moment for you to really ask yourself some of these profound questions. And then after that, go back out and socialize like normal again. Because the person that goes into that kind of cocoon and
mm,
then comes back out I guarantee you will not be the same individual, you
definitely.
know. And then the third point that I was going to say um, was the knack. Find your knack, find your expertise. What are you good at? What skills can you monetize on even? Without having to spend crazy amounts of money on overhead and marketing but just like basic skills that can reap you something, right? And finding other people like that as well, I think is really, really important. Um, you could see immediate returns on these type of skills. So that might mean carpentry. If you're a carpenter or you ever learned it in your life, that could mean baking cookies, baking cakes. All of these really, really conventional things that we used to do, when we were much younger, probably
Mm,
millennials know best
yeah.
about these things, right?
Mm,
If you're good at sculpting, if you're good at handcrafting goods, if you're good at fixing engines to cars, I mean, all of these things, if you're good at painting, because these are professions that will not disappear. People will still need people to do these type of jobs. And they will always need people to do these type of jobs. Cutting someone's lawn, to someone's private home, teaching a language, that can also be seen as something that you can see immediate returns on. But not only that, more importantly, it can also equally be something that you can use as a medium of exchange, whether it be a product or service that you produce. If all else fails. If the lights go out, you can always use these skills. And so I think after you have assessed all of that, the next is plan and take incremental risks. That's
Great.
what I would.
Great. I totally agree with all that you said, everything with everything that you said. And yeah, so the first point is like reinvest your spiritual life.
Absolutely.
Sit down and be quiet with yourself. Listen to
Right.
yourself. Listen to your mind. Listen to what's going on in your life. Have a global view on your life, and take that time. Use that time to self-reflect. I remember that when I was in France around 2019, I
Hmm.
was living a situation that was very painful, and
Hmm.
I saw that I was running amok on my life, and
Mm.
I was at some point I said I will not continue like that because I will get sick at some point. So
Yeah.
I stopped everything and I traveled. Like you say, traveling is really way more than resting. It's really a soul conversation. It's a conversation with your soul. You
It's
have
been
to.
declared a form of therapy. I think in one of the Scandinavian countries recently. I believe it was Sweden, either Sweden or Norway. But yeah, travel is actually being prescribed to patients now as a
Yeah.
form of uh, therapy and healing, because it really does that. And also I'll just add in, it doesn't
Mm,
surprise me that, with everything going on in the world, that governments are finding ways to restrict movement.
mhm.
Movement it means consciousness.
Definitely.
Movement means you are aware. It means you're awake. And I think it's really important for us to remain awake and to not continue to fall into that slumber, that same slumber that made our human spirits synonymous with our careers.
Yeah. It's really it's like you said, it's healing. It's also like it's awakening because by being abroad you confront yourself with yourself, and you confront also yourself with your people, and you see your humanness. You see the reality of your humanity. It's so liberating because sometimes your environment is overwhelmed or charged with negativity, especially
Right?
when you live in a big city, in a big Western city, or where everybody's
That's
struggling.
where it's all thriving and festering, the negativity in the big cities. I mean, when I think about when I was younger and
Mm,
all of the parks, and I would go to the mountains and I would go to the state parks with
mm,
my mom or with my grandparents,
mm,
and it just puts you in a completely different mindset.
mm.
And I think about young kids nowadays in the modern era, they don't really go out into nature.
No,
Even when they go on school trips now, it's just to another city.
exactly.
So we have to really start to think about how this stuff is impacting not only us as adults, but it's impacting our children.
Mhm.
Because it's easy for us adults to say, I need a timeout and to go on a retreat or, take a trip here, take a trip there, and then come back and then recalibrate. However, a child does not have that same option. They can't just, oh, okay, cool. Now I'm just gonna book this and I'm gonna plan that. No, they literally are dependent on us, and I think it's so important that we make sure that we keep in touch with everything and
Definitely.
everything.
Definitely. It's very nice and it's very interesting what you said because look, I have a daughter and I see that I see how she loves when we travel. She goes to France to see her dad, and her dad is more on the countryside. So it's not the city, like big city, but it's a mix between urban life and countryside life, I would say. And the fact that she's moving from an environment completely different to another, the fact that she's traveling, the fact that she's taking breaks from her environment is something that is only that is something that is really nourishing
Right.
for her. And I see the
Right.
difference when we travel and we come back.
Yeah, exactly.
She feels good, and I see that. Yeah, it's not only for adult people; it's for everyone.
It's for everyone.
Traveling is really something that helps to keep the mind healthy.
Yeah, it's about health
It's about health, mental health, like also physical health. Because
also,
when you
because if your
move,
mind isn't right, your body can't be right. You
definitely,
start having problems.
you said peace,
Mhm.
find your peace. So go back to your inner self and have a look at your life and heal the wounds that you can heal.
Yeah, absolutely. And reevaluate the relationships that you
Yeah,
have with yourself and the relationships that others have with you.
yeah, yeah. So it
I think
means,
that's really important.
yeah, so it means to isolate someone sometimes, so like
Yeah, if you have to. Some
if you
people
have
don't need to do it, but some people have to do it.
to do it, especially if you're a person that people are or people tend to take energy from. Sometimes when you're a joyful person, when you're like a dynamic person, you have vampires that come
Yeah,
in your way and try to
yeah,
take your energy. And if you are that type of person, and usually when you're an employee, you are that type of person because
absolutely.
yeah, you've been like recruited to feed the system and
Right.
your energy has been taken away from you. So at some point, you maybe need to stay away from people like just for a little time, but the time to that you need to recharge and feel better because so much has been taken away from you and you need like to rest and figure out things with your own mind and your own self.
I totally agree. I totally agree. I think like I said before, I really can't say it enough. There are so many human beings on this earth that have so many skills and talents
Mm,
and visions and aspirations. There is no possible reason why we cannot have peace on earth, one, and there is no possible reason why we cannot thrive outside of company structures.
mhm.
There is no reason why we cannot create our own camps and our own villages
Yes.
and create new ways and mediums of exchange, which I think is what basically the elites are fighting over right now,
Yeah.
which is destroying everybody's life in the process.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. The fact that people are sometimes people like I said, I discussed with many employees and people this morning. I spoke with a woman and she was talking about the nonsense of her life, struggling to pay her bills alone and
Mm,
struggling to pay her mortgage alone
wow.
and we like she ended up telling me, yeah, I see that I'm my life is a struggle. And I said, you don't have to live like that. Society made you think that you need to have a house and to be a homeowner before your 40s or something like that. It's not true. It's programming, and you don't have to
It
live like
is.
that. You don't have to live like that. You can live an authentic life where you are happy, where you are like creating things with people,
Right.
and you will be rich from these creations and this life that you will build with people. But yeah, the struggle is real in the West.
I think we also have a really strong concept of what home is, to the point where it's become toxic. You know, this concept of home is this really brick and mortar kind of building that makes you feel good because it doesn't go anywhere ever, and it doesn't, you know, and you can fill it up with all of these repeat consumables, and have stock beyond you know your wildest imagination. Have all of these just material things, you know, that are going to help you remember the past. And what if we weren't meant to remember every single thing, you know?
Yeah.
And that's actually what I went through when I was traveling through the country, you know, traveling through Morocco. And
Mm.
I went, oh man, I have to tell you, when I first traveled to Morocco, I traveled with like, I think 330 kilo bags.
Sorry.
Right. Because I was packing like, you know, like an American, and bringing
Okay.
too much stuff, thinking that I would always need something. So I needed to have it right at my disposal. And by the end of that trip, I only had one bag left, and it wasn't even full. I had ended up giving away so many things. I had ended up losing things. I had ended up dumping some stuff in the garbage because stuff had gotten maybe ruined, or
Yeah.
uh, so it just really helped me to declutter my life and my
Yeah.
mind and my spirit. And it helped me understand that materialism is not is not an ideal model. Not in the West, nor anywhere else on Earth. Like we have everything we need. And to be honest, even in the earlier days of humanity, we would move according to the seasons, right?
Yeah.
So we were nomadic by nature.
Hmm.
And that completely changed when they brought in the tax state compliance, so on
Yeah.
and so forth, which is probably another podcast.
Yeah.
But I think we need to really start to let some of the baggage go.
Yeah.
And that baggage can be physical, that baggage can be mental, emotional, but that's a part of finding your peace as well, I think.
Definitely. And what you said also is from the way you presented things is very interesting because it's really the phases. So you need to find your peace and find your right minds, I would say. And then when it's done, you can start to think about what you're good at.
Right.
What is your skill? What can you
Right.
bring to
You'll
the
remember what you're good at because we're all good at something.
yeah.
And that one thing that I always remember when I'm speaking to people who have worked in offices at
Mm,
some of these larger companies for years and years and years is I'll sometimes sit down with them and I'll ask them, or just casually ask them, "Oh, do you have any hobbies?" And then there's like this long pause, and it's almost like they're staring into space because yeah, because like they're trying to
hobby?
remember,
What
do
it
I
is?
have a hobby? Am I alive? Am I breathing?
Like the way the system like has people became zombies like in
Yes, they have.
over a few decades like we became that's crazy.
And not notice, I remember when I graduated high school, which was
Mm,
like probably the year 2000.
mm,
Um, I remember the work days being shorter.
yeah.
I think the work days used to end around 4:30, maximum
Mm,
5, and then you wouldn't be able to find anyone in the offices, at least in New York.
mm,
And then fast forward to right after the 2008 financial
yeah,
crisis,
yeah,
and now all of a sudden people are staying till 5:30, 5:45. And now it's very, very common to see everybody at work until 7 and 8 in the evening, even if their colleagues have left. Not a normal way of living,
absolutely
not
not.
healthy, not the way we were meant to spend our lives on Earth,
Definitely.
But
And not sustainable at all like how do you work like that until you're 60s or like because you're supposed to work until your retirement, right? And if your
right.
retirement is at
But your
65 or 50,
retirement keeps getting pushed,
yeah,
keeps getting postponed.
yeah, so
What's
yeah,
going on here?
that's
I'm like, what's the next step? Are we going to be bringing our kids to work so that they can be our assistants?
yeah, be productive.
Like, right. Are they going to be our interns now? So I don't know. I'm a little sarcastic every once in a while, but it's stuff that really, really does make me
Mm,
think. And I think it should make other people think as well.
definitely.
It's worth thinking about.
This is a difficult situation and a difficult time, but it's also eye-opening because it puts the things at the right place. So first it's your health, first it's your mind, first is your well-being. Then you can move on and create something and produce something and
Enhance as well. Enhance your life. Yeah.
enhance your life and enhance other people's life. And yeah, so it's an eye-opening, but you need to have this eye-opening, you need to put priorities in order and
Right.
be able to yeah, take care of yourself and relax, like have like a sabbat moment. I was reading a book yesterday about like a mystical that was talking about how you can manifest things in your life, and it's not by struggling and pushing and
No.
it's by putting intention in the world, acting, but also taking
Letting it breathe.
letting breathe and stop like struggling and like let the universe do what it has to do and not run after it, I would say.
Right.
With the job market situation as
Yeah.
as an observer, because you are an
Mhm.
observer of this job market in the West, because you don't live in
Right.
the West and you don't work in the West,
Right.
why for you it's also eye-opening what is going on like in
Ah.
terms of yeah.
Um, what's going on right now in terms of the job market in the West is really eye-opening, at least to me, specifically because we are starting to see who is really productive in society and who really isn't, who really adds value to just really basic things that we need to get done, and which companies really bring value to humans, and which ones don't. I think, especially for people working at bigger structures,
Mhm.
working within bigger structured companies, they can they already detected who is actually productive and who actually brings value, but it's not what we would think because it can't be measured by the work itself.
Mm.
It has a lot more to do with people and relationships, I think. Um, because yes, you can be really, really good. You can have great skills. You can get the job done, so to speak. But
Mhm.
and I think maybe a lot of people in the corporate world might agree with me here. Most of the work that needs to get done in the corporate world is not the real issue. It's dealing with the people that you have to work with, because they can actually accelerate the process so that we can complete the work, or they can slow it down and make it very cumbersome and
Yeah,
difficult, you know?
definitely.
So I think that has, for me, has been the biggest reveal about this whole situation. And it translates over into, well, if you're not productive and bringing anything of
Mhm.
value to the world, what purpose do you serve? Because if you're not pouring in, you must be
Yeah,
leaking out. I don't know. That's
yeah.
just my theory. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that we experience different. So I've been in the job market, or I've been an entrepreneur and working in the job market and observing the job market for more than 20 years now. And I think we have seen different phases. And the first phases that I observed when I start working is people were paid you related to the value that they bring in the job market. At some point, with the technology, the tech, like the tech movement and everything
Yeah,
created in the tech, the people that were earning more money were the people that were doing, like, we called it in France, we called it bullshit jobs.
bougie jobs.
Bullshit
Oh,
jobs.
bullshit jobs. Oh, okay, good. Got it. I
It's
said bougie jobs. We
no,
have
no,
that word in
no,
America.
no, no. It's bullshit jobs. Like,
Yeah,
it's a job.
bullshit.
It's a job. For example, it's a job that uh, you are not able to. It's when you have a job that you are not able to explain to someone. For example,
Yeah,
what are you
got it.
doing in life? Oh, I'm a product manager, and I create that. Like, what is a product manager? Oh, I create
Right.
stuff, and these kind of jobs that you're
I'm a
not
I'm a
able.
personal shopper.
Yeah, personal shopper, a happiness. We have also a happiness chief officer. What
I'm
is
a
this?
happiness coordinator.
It, yeah. So all these nonsense jobs that were very highly paid
Mm.
compared to people, for example, that were working as nurses or doctors, that jobs that really actually help people, they were paid less than these people that were working in tech companies. So for me,
So basically money laundering
yeah.
in essence.
Yes, we can call it money laundering, but for me, it's the situation, like you said, it was a bubble. Like, and
Mm.
I right after
Yeah.
COVID, I think this bubble where was going bigger and bigger, and at some point it stopped. And now what is going on with the situation in the job market is also revealing, like you said, people that don't really create values versus people that create values and create and really helping people on a daily basis.
I think traveling and living abroad really is about distance, the required and necessary distance that we need to have with everything and everyone that is familiar, whether it be, again, family, friends, routines, habits, um, so that we can recalibrate, so that we can find a new balance,
Mhm.
um, or fix certain things that we need to get fixed, so that
Mhm.
we have that time, space to be in some other environment and maybe even learn from that other environment or
Mhm.
learn from the people living within that habitat, and then take and extract what it is that we need or what it is that pertains to us and leave the rest,
Mhm.
so that we can move to that next phase of our lives because our lives are phasic.
For me, like I said, like traveling is really a soul healing experience. And living abroad, because for me it's different. Yeah, living abroad and traveling. Traveling is just a moment of breathing
Mhm.
where you like you take the time to reflect, but for a short time. And living abroad is different. And living abroad is really challenging because you put yourself outside of your comfort zone. You meet new people, you have to adapt to new cultures, new way of doing things, new way of being. And
Yeah,
it brings reflection on yourself, and it brings mental clarity. But for me, I will talk about my own experience. I was able, when I arrived in Morocco, to see the way I was living and thinking when I was in France, and how I was constantly facing microaggressions and a microaggressive environment. And
right,
you're used to that when you live in the West, especially in big
right.
cities. You're used to that, all these microaggressive environments
And you
where
pacify it as, oh,
exactly,
well, that's just the way things are.
exactly,
And that's not normal. It's just not normal to live like that on edge all the time.
exactly. And that's what I discovered when I arrived here. It's like, it was funny because it was like, to give an image, it was like I was still fighting, I was still with my fist like this. And I just, at some point, I saw that my environment was not that aggressive. My environment
Right,
was completely different. The
right.
people were, and I was like, okay, calm down. You don't need.
Almost to the point where you feel as if you're aggressive and
Exactly.
everybody else is too chill.
Exactly. That's what I felt. I was ashamed. Really, at the beginning,
Yeah,
the way I spoke to people, I didn't, for me, it was normal. The way I
right.
spoke to people, the way I behaved, even
Yeah.
the way I walked.
Very unforgiving.
Very
We are
unforgiving.
very unforgiving as Western people.
Yeah,
We don't have patience. We want everything right now.
exactly.
Yes, because I paid my money, because I did this, because
Yes.
me,
Me.
my, very self-centered.
Very self-centered. And here, for example, in Morocco, you will never ever be able to create a network or become friends with people if you are like this.
Yeah,
Me. Coming from the West, you need to adapt to people. You need to be
right,
able to listen. You need to be able to show that you care about people and what
right.
is going on in their life, and you want to know more about them. Then
There
you
needs to be human connection and social cohesion.
Definitely, you cannot live without this human connection here in
Right,
Morocco. And I was like, I saw myself in the picture. I was like, okay, I need to calm down. And at some point, it took me months, like to stop behaving like that. And at
right,
some point, I felt that my body was resting, my
right,
mind was resting, and I was like more chill, more calm. And it was like I was going back to life normally. Like
right,
it was very very surprising to me to see myself, and I really thought that I was very cool and very calm when I was in France. Oh, I'm chill, I'm calm, and I meditate, blah blah blah. No, I was not. I was a complete mess. And when I
yeah.
arrived here, I discovered that how to behave and how to calm down and how to slow pace my life. So yeah.
Definitely, definitely. I think again, like you mentioned earlier, this whole job collapse situation in the West is an opportunity for us to reclaim our elements of our collectivism.
Mm,
Even though we are not collectivists, um, there was more social cohesion in the past, and that had a lot to do with the fact that we had more time to spend quality time
yeah,
with each other, and we actually did things together that didn't always require spending money. And now what you find is Westerners have gotten into this weird kind of, I don't know, custom of if we're not spending money, well, we're not seeing each other,
yeah.
you know? And
Yeah.
that's very problematic because now how do you, if it's all transactional, where is the social cohesion?
Yeah,
It doesn't exist. It's not, it's
yeah,
based on the transaction, right?
definitely.
The other thing I was going to say about living abroad is that it wakes you up. It's like dumping a bucket of freezing cold water on somebody's head, or like, pushing them into like, I don't know, an Arctic kind of like pool or something.
Mm.
Versus living abroad, which is more about having experiencing constant reminders of why you should remain awake.
What do you mean about remain awake? Like,
The trip will wake you up, and
mhm.
you're like, wow, I
Okay.
didn't know this was like that. I didn't know those people were like that. I didn't know they spoke this over here.
Mm.
Ooh, this food is good. Versus living that over
Yeah.
and over and over and over to remind you of
Okay.
who you are, what you're about, your
Hmm.
relationship to things, your proximity to things,
Yes.
maybe even God if you believe in God,
Mm.
or proximity to your government,
Mm.
proximity to maybe the land, the indigenous, the I
Hmm.
don't know, everything.
Yeah.
Being in that state of constant, all right, I just woke up and I'm really present right now. I'm really here. And I really have to figure out how I'm going to get from point A to point B because maybe I have some linguistic challenges or hurdles, or maybe the elevator doesn't work. Or that stuff is what keeps us alive and reminds us of why we need to stay sharp and stay
Yeah.
awake versus just being awake for that one trip and then you go back home and it's like you take your zombie ass right back into the office.
Definitely. Yeah, the zombie ass is really accurate. It's really accurate. Yes, I completely agree. And it puts, like you said, yeah, it's the awakening that I listened from what you said is also constant learning mode. But
Right.
not
Because you
learning
have no choice.
exactly. The
You have
learning,
no choice.
the
Mhm.
learning adaptative mode constantly, it stimulates all your senses, like
Right.
your mind, everything.
Right.
It stimulates everything, and so you need to be in that constant state. And the fact that we are coming from another environment, there is also still the comparison and the like the adaptation of
Right.
from this environment to another one, and it's really growing, and it's really helping your evolution and our
Right.
evolution.
I totally agree.